Respect is earned. Honesty is appreciated. Trust is gained. And loyalty is returned. Someone probably had written or said this. When I was reading this quotation, I was saying to myself, it is easier read and said, but in reality, this is not happening. In reality, somehow there's a half-truth to it. Yes, we strive, we work hard, and we earn the respect of our peers, maybe in your office, in our families. Because of our lives, we earn the respect of people. But in reality, on the other side, respect is also not earned. They're not given, even though we earn it. And you are seated here this morning, probably you're saying, that's true, Pastor, but just last week, you know what happened to me in the office? I've been working there for so long, and instead of being respected there, I was scolded or disrespected by my peers or my even superiors. How I wish these words are absolutely true. Honesty is appreciated, but we all know that sometimes being honest is being taken advantage of. Your honesty is being perceived as weakness. In reality, these things does not happen sometimes or even most of the time. People can be very disrespectful. Honesty can be taken advantage. Trust is broken and loyalty is betrayed. We don't have to elaborate a lot of our stories, but I know I'm not the only one who have experienced this in reality in life. You too have experienced how it is to be betrayed. How we wish these things are true. But one thing I've experienced and one thing I have learned in life, and probably you can agree with me, there are no guarantees that a generous act of love will be rewarded by loyal gratitude. Pinag-aral mo, you've sent money, you sacrificed in Singapore, you sent someone to school, but at the end of the day, instead of being reciprocated with loyalty and love and gratitude, the person slandered you. The person tried to destroy your reputation. I think being human, part of our life's journey in this world is there is no guarantee, even if you sow love, that you will be loved in return. But let us not stop in doing what is good. Jesus was betrayed by the very people whom He fed. Jesus was betrayed, taken advantage of by the very people He came to save. There's no guarantee of loyalty, respect, and honesty being reciprocated in this world, because to love is to risk. I wonder, when God created Adam and Eve and He poured out His love to Adam and Eve, that He realized that He was taking a big risk. And we all know that God loved the world, God loved humanity, He gave Him everything. And we all know the story in the book of Genesis, that man forgot and disobeyed his Creator. Love is a risky relationship. We can be betrayed. We can be taken advantage. And today, David, allow me to bring you back to the life of David. Probably, and I believe David was betrayed, but in a very particular episode in the life of David, probably he was also betrayed by a person whom he he adopted into his family. Now, allow me to lead you into a conversation in God's Word today, an intriguing and very emotional conversation in the Scriptures that deals with the issues of betrayal, trust, loyalty, love, and honesty. So if you're taking notes, the title of our conversation on God's Word is Loyal Affection. Now, I was reading the story of David, Mephibosheth. If you were here several Sundays ago, I'd talk about royal love. I've talked about the love of Jonathan and David. I've talked about paying it forward, and when David summoned Mephibosheth. And this is the conclusion of the episode in the life of this man. And we will see how loyal affection is rare and what it means to be loyally affected to a person. Now, for those who are joining us here, probably just today or for several Sundays, just to refresh our memory, you remember Mephibosheth, the son of Jonathan, the grandson of King Saul, who was lame, crippled in both legs since 5 years old, because his nurse, during the panic that happened when Jonathan and Saul was killed, he was picked up by his nurse, and And while running, the nurse fell, and that led to the lameness of Mephibosheth. And he was hiding in Lodebar. Remember that? He grew up there, and we were wondering whether Mephibosheth was threatened, was Mephibosheth was hiding in nurturing, harboring bitterness and grievances against a person who he has never met, David. And one day there was this knock at the door of his house in Lodebar, and the soldiers of the king were there and asking for, "Are you Mephibosheth?" And in trembling, we were imagining that he was afraid, and he was summoned by the king. And Mephibosheth, when he appeared before King David, he was shocked that he was not expecting a kind of king. When David was taking the reign in Israel, he was mistreated and ill-treated by King Saul, the grandfather of Jonathan, or the father of Jonathan, and the grandfather of Mephibosheth. So he had all the right, he had all the reason to revenge to all the families of King Saul. And that was probably what was going on in the mind of Mephibosheth. This man will kill me. I know, I heard the story, but we know that instead of being punished and put to death, David showed him kesed, the royal love, kesed, the goodness of God, the bigger than love. And Mephibosheth, this is where we left off. In chapter 9, 2 Samuel chapter 9, this is where we ended in our discussion in our conversation on royal law and paying it forward. Mephibosheth found himself from obscurity into the palace of King David. From nothing to a royalty. He was adopted by King David. Actually, Jonathan or Mephibosheth was an enemy to David. Nung panahon po kasi ng Israel in the ancient Near East, if someone would take the throne, a new king would sit on the throne. The usual thing that the new king would do is to kill all the relatives and the families of the former king para walang threat of coup d'etat or insurrection. But instead of that, David operated in love and showed kesed, the loving kindness of God to Mephibosheth, adopted him to the family. And look what Samuel recorded to us, who was crippled in both legs, lived in Jerusalem, and ate regularly at the king's table. I wonder whether Mephibosheth, every morning, every time there's meal served at the table of the king, he would wonder, is this really true? Is this happening? He would enjoy the royal meal, a royal treatment. And we ended there. I asked myself, what happened from that day? What happened? Many things happened. Many things transpired. Actually po, if you read the story of David, Mephibosheth was already in the household of David when David committed adultery to Bathsheba. Those were the stories that happened. He was there. He witnessed everything. How David was anointed, how David was disciplined by God, the child of David died, and so on and so forth. Many things happened that transpired, and one of the things was the conspiracy and the rebellion of Absalom. Now, bear with me, because inserted in the rebellion and the conspiracy of Absalom is the story that the ending episode of the story of Mephibosheth. So let me summarize to you the Absalom conspiracy. Now, we ended, Mephibosheth was enjoying the royalty, the royal treatment. Many things happened in between. And one of the key that I would like to highlight, one of the sons of David was Absalom. Absalom had a beautiful long hair, a handsome-looking man. Mahal na mahal ni David si Absalom. You know what happened? One of the sons of David raped his stepsister or a brother from another mother. We know the story, Tamar and Amnon. There was this scandal in the family of David. And si Absalom, he hated that his other brother who raped his sister. And he plotted something and eventually came into conclusion and killed that brother. Mephibosheth was there. I was imagining he was witnessing everything that was happening in the palace. And Absalom became very evil. The influence that was talking to Absalom is that you can take the throne of your father. People were rallying behind him. And Absalom, young as he was, believed that he can. And there was this conspiracy. He became a traitor to his father. He was exiled somewhere and then he returned to the palace. And many things happened in Absalom. until such time that he made a coup d'etat to his father and an insurrection to his father, David. Now, at the outset, let me just tell you one very, very glaring truth about the story that I will unfold to you now in the loyal affection is this. Set your affection on the person, not the provision. While I was reading the story, and you will be amazed, in order for you and me to have that loyal affection, the rightful way of having a loyal affection is that we need to see to it that we set our affection on the right object. Setting your affection on the person, not the provision. You know what happened now? Chapter 15. Absalom came to invade Jerusalem. Absalom came to take the throne from his father. And the news came to David and said, David, you have to flee. Absalom is coming with his soldiers and he would take the throne. So David, because of his love, nag-aagaw-agaw po yung pagmamahal niya sa kanyang anak. At the same time, his respect and his throne, left Jerusalem, left the palace with all his loyal friends. And when they were marching out, there were some disloyal people as well. Now, chapter 16, let us jump into chapter 16 now of 2 Samuel. Follow me in the story. When David had gone a little beyond the summit of the Mount of Olives, if you've been to Israel, you're standing on Mount Zion, Mount of Olives is just, you can see it, you can just see the summit. It's just like two hills facing each other. Ziba, the servant of Mephibosheth. Remember Ziba? The servant, one of the caretaker of Saul, and sabi nga ni David, Ziba, from now on, you be the servant of Mephibosheth. You farm the land that I gave to him, that belongs to your king before, to Saul. I am giving back it to him. So Ziba, when David was marching, fleeing Absalom, when they were marching with all his people, loyal people, Ziba, the servant of Mephibosheth, was waiting there at the summit of Mount Olives. Nakita ngayon ni David. And you know what happened? He had 2 donkeys loaded with 200 loaves of bread, 100 clusters of raisins, and 100 bunches of summer fruit, and a wineskin full of wine. In other words, ang dami niyang pasalubong. Ang dami niyang baon. And when David saw Ziba, David said, "What are these for?" The king asked Ziba. Ziba replied, "The donkeys are for the king's people to ride on, and the bread and the summer fruit are for the young men to eat. The wine is for those who become exhausted in the wilderness." What, in other words, Ziba was thinking, you are going to march again, David. You are going to hide again. You would need provision. You would need food and supplies. And I took the initiative, my king, to give it to you. Now, picture your mind. If you're King David, what's going on in your mind is that my son is rebelling against me. I am fleeing again for my life. He was a fugitive before. He was fleeing from King Saul, but this time he was running away from his own blood, from his own son. And here comes Ziba. Ito na po. This is the juncture now that I want you to see. And where is Mephibosheth? David said to Ziba, "Where is Mephibosheth, Ziba?" Remember? Ziba was the caretaker he put in charge to take care of Mephibosheth because he was crippled in both legs. So of course, David said, "Where is your master, Mephibosheth?" Saul's grandson. Because he was nowhere to be seen. And look at what Ziba said. "He stayed in Jerusalem, my Lord. He said today, I will get back the kingdom of my grandfather Saul." Now, pause for a while. Oops. What is Ziba doing here? Sinisiraan ba ni Ziba si Mephibosheth? What's going on here? You're supposed to be your master servant. You're supposed to be taking care of Mephibosheth. And here comes Ziba saying, "Wala po si Mephibosheth, actually King David." Now, just a thought. Because when we left Mephibosheth, he was enjoying the buffet dinner at the king's palace. Did Mephibosheth really believe that he was a beneficiary of the love of David? Or si Mephibosheth was really just quiet, pero in his heart, he was suspicious of David? That he was there waiting for an opportune time to regain the throne of his grandfather Saul? What was happening here? Ziba now was revealing to us a glimpse there. I don't know whether this is true. And in the midst of disloyalty, In the midst of panic and turmoil in the kingdom, here's a person with all the provisions and everything. And he is telling David, David, yung inampon mo, yung pinakain mo, yung pinrovide mo sa kakarian mo, hindi sumama sa'yo because he's taking this time and he was saying Mephibosheth because Mephibosheth was the grandson of King Saul. Maybe he was thinking, this is now the time David will be killed, I will be the next king again. Naghahalo ba yung interest, yung personal interest, the ulterior motive ni Mephibosheth? When someone comes to you, tell you something about someone, do we really believe right away at face value? Many relationships were broken simply because we believe right away when somebody comes to us. Have you experienced that? And you see that misunderstanding here. Look at David now. I want you to feel what David felt during that time. Sabi ni David, in that case, he said, Ziba, I will give you everything Mephibosheth owned. All the properties of King Saul were given to Mephibosheth. I don't know how many hectares of land. I don't know how many houses. But during the time when Mephibosheth was summoned by King David, instead of being declared to death or sentencing him to death, David showered him with chesed and loving kindness of God and gave him the inheritance of everything that his grandfather owned. Did Mephibosheth harbor bitterness in spite of the love of David? Is it possible that when you show love to a person, inampun mo, inalagaan mo yung kakaibigan mo, or is it possible that when you shower love, that the person can still think ill and bad about you? Na nakangiti sa'yo pero nag-iisip ng someday, ito, pag nawala ito, ako na ang maghahari sa plot na ito. Eh, pinarerenta mo lang biglang iniisipan ka na pag yan nawala, pag-aari ko na yung flat. Nabago ba si Mephibosheth? Was he changed by the chesed of David? Is it possible for a person that we will be surrounded with love and still decide to be bitter and angry? But the setting of the loyal affection is that when a person sets his affection on the provision and not on the person, nagkakaproblema ang loyal affection. Loyalty becomes in question because the person looks at the provision, what this person can give me, rather than being loyal to the very person who provided the provision. We're close to a friend because of what we can get from that friend, but we're not really interested about the friend. In that case, sabi ni David, now let's give David the benefit of the doubt. In fairness, offended si David. Eto ako, I was running away from my son, my own blood, trying to take my throne. And here's Ziba provided everything that we would need in the journey. And where is Mephibosheth? Inaasahan ko to si Mephibosheth will be loyal to me. Sabi si ni David, okay, in that case, Mephibosheth, lahat ng property ni Mephibosheth sa'yo na. All that belongs to Mephibosheth is yours from this time onward. Ziba. Napangiti si Ziba. Ano sabi ni Ziba? I bow before you. May I always be pleasing to you, my Lord, the King. Now, what happened after that? Ay, basahin niyo po. Read 2 Samuel, and I want you to feel David's heart. When David was marching, there is this foreigner who said, King, let me go with you. Sabi ni David, don't come with me. You're just a foreigner. But the foreigner who served in his palace said, no, wherever you go, David, I will go and I will die with you. And that comforted David. There are people who are loyal to me, not because of the provision that I gave, because they set their affection on the person, not on my provision. Sama, meron din pong isa, si Shimei. Shimei or Shimei. Merong isang tao doon na, I don't know how to pronounce his name, Shimei or Shimei. Read 2 Samuel. This guy, pag binasa nyo, may inis ka. You'll be irritated. When David was marching with the entourage, leaving Jerusalem, there was this Shimei, the son of Jerah, was stoning David and shouting, yes, you get out of this city, you murderer. Binabato si David. Sabi nung isang soldier ni David, command me, my king. Pupugutan ko ng ulo yan. Sabi nung isang soldier ni David, how can he talk to my king like that? Sabi ni David, no. Maybe it's God who told him to say that to me. Look at David, no? Hindi siya nag-retaliate. Now, this is what happened. The in-between now, Absalom, fast forward, I want you to read it na lang at home. Absalom did the most disrespectful because of some negative advisors. You know what Absalom did? He slept with all the wives of his father. Somewhere where everyone can see the whole Jerusalem. He disrespected his father. Sabi ni David, when he grouped his soldiers to attack Absalom, sabi niya, please be gentle with my son. Don't touch my son Absalom. He loved Absalom. So nagkaroon ng gera, lumusob. What happens here, I'm just giving you the summary. Ito na si Absalom, tinan niyo po, namatay ng walang ka-glory-glory kasi puro buhok niya iniintindi niya eh. Sa haba ng buhok, sa ganda ng puro spray nut siguro. Because the Bible says he had a beautiful hair. Siguro yun yung charm niya. Kaya siya nakakarali ng mga soldiers loyal to him because of his hair. What happened, he was riding a mule and his hair was caught in a branch and the mule or the horse kept on running and he was there hanging because of his hair. And Joab, one of the soldiers of David, saw him, reported, sabi niya, Sir, si Absalom, nakabitin doon sa puno. Sabi ni Joab, yung isang soldier ni Captain ni David, what did you do? Kill him. But King David said, don't touch my son Absalom. Sabi ni Joab, no. Pumunta si Joab, in-spear niya dyan. Talagang pinagpapatay ho nila si Absalom. It was a tragic death for Absalom. He died without the glory. And the report came to David. And David mourned. And basahin niyo po, you would feel, oh, Absalom, my son. He was crying in tears. And the captain of the soldiers of David came and said, why are you crying, King David? Instead, you rejoice. Your armies laid down their lives for you. So David stood up. And he said, because he already fled from Jerusalem, he was on the other side of Jordan. Sabi niya, I will not go back to Jerusalem unless I'm invited. So there was this communication. Sabi nung sa Judah, are you not going to invite the king again back to his throne? And the tribes of Judah said, okay, please come back, my king, to Jerusalem. So David now marches towards Jerusalem to return to the palace. Now, here comes the story in chapter 19. I'm just escaping that portion. Now, nung paglabas ni David, papunta na po siya ng Jerusalem, he crossed the Jordan River, going up the Judean desert to Jerusalem. Many people who were loyal to David came to the Jordan to welcome the return of the king. Ang dami po, thousands of Benjamites. Ziba was there. Ziba. Remember Ziba? And Mephibosheth was there. Now, Mephibosheth, Saul's grandson, came down from Jerusalem to meet the king. Now, I don't know how he did it because he was crippled in both legs. No, this is the moment of truth. All the people were gathered there to welcome back King David. The Bible says he had not cared for his feet, meaning madumi. He did not trim his beard, meaning mahaba yung bigote niya, yung balbas niya. Or wash his clothes, meaning may body odor na si Mephibosheth. Since the day the king left Jerusalem. Now what is he telling us? He was mourning. He was mourning and grieving when King David left Jerusalem. So that was the description. Now here comes the moment of truth. David saw Mephibosheth. Why didn't you come with me, Mephibosheth? Now, nung binabasa ko po ito, sabi ko, eto na, ano nang mangyayari dito? In the presence of the many people, thousands of Benjamites were there. Ziba was there, who became the owners of everything that Mephibosheth owned because it was given to him. Now here comes David. Mephibosheth. Kita niya, gusgusin si Mephibosheth. Mahaba na yung balbas. May body odor na. The feet was so dirty, as if he did not take a bath for days. David said, why did you not come with me, Mephibosheth? Look at the answer of Mephibosheth. Given the right to explain his situation, said, my lord the king, my servant Ziba deceived me. Ayan na, ayan na. So it's his words against Ziba. Now, I want you to picture in your mind, Ziba was there. All the people who were welcoming David back to the throne were there. And here comes Mephibosheth, and he was saying, my lord the king, my servant Ziba deceived me. I told him, now flashback, during the time when David was about to flee from Absalom, I told him, saddle my donkey so I can go with the king. Prepare my horse, prepare my donkey, for as you know, I am crippled. Servant kita, tulungan mo ako. I want to go with the king. Oh, it looks like Mephibosheth was a loyal person to David. When I was reading that, I was saying, What was Ziba doing? What was Ziba feeling? That now it's the moment of truth that everything is being revealed. Ziba slandered me by saying I refuse to come. Okay, flashback. Ziba, what are these foods and provision? My Lord, this is for you. So when you're in your journey, you will not be hungry. Wine, bread, raisins, and everything, this is for you. In that case, where's Mephibosheth? He believed that today he will regain his throne. In that case, I'll give you all the kingdom, all the lands, all the properties of Mephibosheth. It's yours, Ziba. So tuwang-tuwa si Ziba. You know what happened there? After David gave everything to Ziba, I believe Ziba went to Mephibosheth and said, okay, I'm no longer your servant. I own everything that belongs to you. Because Ziba wanted everything. Now, he slandered me by saying that I refuse to come. My king, it's not true. I wanted from day one. I actually told him to prepare the donkey because I wanted to go with you. But he left me. Look, I have not shaved for days. I have not taken a bath for days. I was mourning since the day you left, my king. Mephibosheth said to David, in the presence of many people, I know that my Lord the king is like an angel. Ano ibig sabihin ni Mephibosheth? You are like an angel. You are full of wisdom. You know what's best. So you do what you think is best. What is this Mephibosheth doing? He was submitting everything to David. Even if Ziba slandered me, I know, my king, that you are like an angel. You are full of wisdom. So you do what you think is best. What a submission. What a humble submission of a person, putting his life, everything, before the king and trusting whatever the decision of the king. Look at this, the next verse. All my relatives, sabi ni Mephibosheth, all my relatives, and I could expect only death from you, my Lord, but instead you have honored me by allowing me to eat at your own table. What more can I ask? Oh my goodness, this man reveals a loyal heart to David. I cannot ask anything. That's the same posture of Mephibosheth when he was summoned in the first place. I am like a dog. Why do you love someone like a dead dog like me? Remember that portion? This same heart of Mephibosheth. I don't deserve anything, my king. You have already honored me by inviting me into your presence to eat at your table. That is enough, my king. What more can I ask from you? What a loyal person. Now, loyalty is being revealed in a few moments from now. So you hold on to your seats. Sabi ni David, you have said enough. I don't know how David said it. Tama na! Dahil pagod si David eh. Kababalik niya na. Enough! You have said enough, David said. Maybe, I don't know what's going on. Maybe David now, napahiya si David. Oops, naisahan ako ni Ziba. It looks like that Mephibosheth is telling the truth. Because everything that you see in Mephibosheth, he did not shave, he did not take a bath, his feet was dusty. Everything proves in what Mephibosheth was saying. I was impulsive when I decided to give everything back to Ziba. Enough, David said. I have decided that you and Ziba, maybe he pointed to Ziba. I have decided that you and Ziba will divide the land equally between you. Why was Ziba not saying anything at this moment? When Mephibosheth was revealing the other truth, my servant Ziba deceived me. He slandered me before you, my king. Why was Ziba quiet? Why was Ziba not defending himself? That's not true. Why was Ziba not telling the truth? Why was Ziba quiet at this time? Was it because Ziba was exposed? Was David's decision based on facts and on truth? Or David realized that maybe both of these men were telling the truth, so I would divide the properties. Sabi ni David, enough. I have decided to take 50-50 kayo. Divide the land. This verse 30, kumbaga po sa Pacquiao punch, ito na yung pang-remate na suntok ni Mephibosheth. This verse strikes me. That's why I came to a conclusion that we need to set our affection on the person, not the provision. Sabi ni Mephibosheth, give him all of it, my king. Bigay niyo na po sa kanya. Give him all of it, all the lands, my king. Mephibosheth, because I am content just to have you safely back again, my Lord. And what is important to me is you, King David. Wow! This is loyal affection. Tell me, brothers and sisters, if this is not loyalty. It reveals that Mephibosheth, for him, he was not bitter. He was not grieving. He was not hiding grievances against David. He was loyal all the time. Yun naman ang gusto ni Ziba eh. Ang gusto ni Ziba from the day one, is all the land. Yun ang gusto niya, give it all to him. I don't like those lands kung mawawala ka, king. In other words, what Mephibosheth was saying, what is important to me is the king, not the kingdom. What is important to me is the giver, not the blessing. The blesser is important to me. Because as long as you are with me, my king, I have everything that I would need in this life. Wow. I don't know what David felt when he said, divide the land. Maybe it was a test. Maybe when David said, let us divide the land, bigyan nyo ng tig-isa yan. Sabi ni David, give the half. Half the land. And I think, what do you think? It's just open ending. Do you think David realized the truth? When Mephibosheth said, my king, just give it all to Ziba. Because I am content that what you have, what you are, is to me. I want what Mephibosheth was actually saying, I don't care about the land. That is all what Ziba cared for. He wanted the earth. I want you. I don't want the land. I wanted you, Mephibosheth said. I wanted your presence. I wanted to be for you and with you. David's return to Jerusalem was the highest reward Mephibosheth desired. He was not angry. He was not bitter. Even material possessions had little appeal on Mephibosheth. What an important lesson for us, brothers and sisters. Kumusta tayo? Are you like Ziba? Are we like Ziba, an opportunist? Taking a situation, this is now my time to gain. Or are we like Mephibosheth, that our loyal affection will be revealed because we set our affection on the person and not the provision? Kumusta mga kapatid? Kumusta tayo bilang mga Kristiyano? I wonder if our affection in God is just based on what God can give to us. I wonder, brothers and sisters, if we all Christians today, our affection on God is because He's blessing us. Tayo ba? Nagpupuri lang sa Panginoon dahil may blessing? Are we only worshiping God? Are we only loyal to God because of His provision? What if the provision does not come? What if He does not answer your prayer? Are we loyal to the person? Do we set our affection upon the person of God? How do we do that? How do we set our affection upon the person and not the provision? I think by knowing and realizing that Jesus is the treasure we are all looking for. Until such time we can say, Lord, your presence is heaven to me. But I remember Jairel, when he was still small, he wanted to have a PSP 10 years ago. We cannot afford the PSP that time. We saved money just to buy for Jairel the PSP. It was very expensive during the first time it was released. So we saved. Come December, we were able to buy the PSP to surprise him. And when he opened his gift, he saw it's PSP. Naiyak siya. He could not imagine, believe that it was his dream. But he did something after a few seconds. He did something that made me realize that setting our affection on the person and not the provision is very true. He placed down the PSP and embraced his papa. Wow.
Who is like you, Lord, in all the earth?
Set your affection on the person of God,
Matchless
His presence.
love and beauty.
Maybe we can all declare today, Lord, your presence is heaven to me.
Nothing in
Jesus,
this
nothing can
world
satisfy. You are the cup
satisfy.
that never runs dry.
Jesus, you're the cup that won't run dry. Your presence is heaven to me. Oh God, your presence is heaven